Hey vinyl community, I'm really excited about this video that I'm making, which is my latest installment in my Beatles vinyl update of new records. I've made a lot of these before, but the reason I really like this one is because there's a great story leading into how I came across these records, and also it's quite a good haul. A lot of rare and unusual records here. I should tell you from the beginning that I know there's going to be enough stuff here I want to talk about that I'm going to want to take it slow and easy and make sure I show you everything and remember everything. And I'll also tell you, this is maybe the 7th or 8th pass I've had at this video. Okay, this is the longest amount of outtakes I've ever done before, trying to get it right. So because my camera is limited and I've only got about 8 minutes and 15 seconds per video, I'm going to have to make this in 2 parts. So please, if you like this one, please make sure you check out part 2. Okay, I want to tell you this story. It starts out first, if you look back at a couple of videos I made recently, I made a video called A Vinyl Dilemma. And the Vinyl Dilemma video basically was meaning, do you ever have times where you have like a little amount of money, a limited amount of cash, and you have a lot of responsibilities pending, right? You have to pay bills, you got to pay the rent, and you really can't be buying records right now. But unfortunately, the dilemma is that you notice that in your record store, or wherever you go shopping for records, you have come across a batch of vinyl that's very important that you're never going to see again. It's not something you can just wait and say, oh, I'll pick it up another time. You know, this is something where if you don't get it right now, you're never going to see it again. It'll disappear. And that's what's been happening to me lately. Now, also at the end of one of my videos, I said there was a Beatles batch coming in my local record store. Well, what I'm going to show you now is not even that batch. That batch hasn't even come in yet. That's going to be delayed. This is something totally surprising out of nowhere. Okay, and here's the story. I went into the record store yesterday, very shortly after they opened, and I looked down, and I see 4 or 5 record crates down there. And as I glance down, I see, the guy in the store going through them, and I can see that there are a lot of rare records, Beatles and solo Beatle records, not the typical albums you see all the time. I found out later that this collection came from a woman in her 60s who actually collected the Beatles and actually, went to shows and things, and she was unloading her records. And this is the kind of, find you want to get in on, if you can. So she had a lot of good stuff. Now, some of the stuff I couldn't even touch price-wise. Okay, one of them was like a sealed copy of sometime in New York City, John Lennon's 1972 album, which, goes for big bucks, sealed. She had other sealed albums, like, anybody know the George Harrison 60s album, Electronic Sound? It's a rare album even open. She had 2 copies sealed of this Electronic Sound album from the 60s. Perhaps the rarest album there, I don't know how many of you heard of it, there's an album by George Harrison's sister, I think her name at the time, Louise Harrison Caldwell, maybe. She had an album from 1964, I believe, with a colored cover with her face on it, where she talks about her brother or the Beatles or whatever. And I've never seen a copy of this album. This woman had this album sealed from the 60s, sealed. So these albums were being priced for like $200 or something like that, I believe. So you can forget about that. But another thing about my record store, I really love the guys in this store. They're really cool, but they don't allow you to look at the records anymore until they're priced. And the guy who prices these kind of rare records is the owner, and he's not there all the time. But they made a phone call, and he lives very close by, and he was able to come over and price some records for me, which I appreciate. The only thing is, I got some records yesterday, I had to go back and get more today, and from what I'm hearing, there may be more priced later this afternoon, and maybe tomorrow. So here's what I got so far. Okay, we're going to start with this one. This is a bootleg album called The Beatles' Young Blood. Young Blood is the title of a song that the Beatles covered on the BBC sessions from 1963. This album means a lot to me. First of all, it's a great cover. It's an album I used to have in my original Beatles collection that I sold off. So to get this back again really means a lot to me. And it's a special, heartfelt feeling about this album because my friend Mike, who passed away, got me this album when we were teenagers from a mail order source. And he sent away for it for me, and that was great. Here's the back cover. This album's worth it for the cover alone. I mean, it's really a nice cover. This is back in the days when there wasn't really any other way you could get this stuff. I mean, a lot of these bootlegs, what's on these bootlegs now, it's obsolete stuff that has been released legitimately, a lot of it, or in better quality bootlegs. Over here you can't really see the listing, but there were BBC radio tracks, and they used to sound like this, you know. I used to listen to them, and the songs would sound a little muffled, like that. But that was all you could get then, and you were happy to have them. This side, though, was more interesting in that this is a live show from December 22nd, 1963, from the Liverpool Empire Beatles Christmas show. So that's still interesting. And the label, this is a common label for these types of albums. It's you got a dog with a gun to its head. And if I can please make a silly joke, I think if Dr. Deadwax is watching this now, he just got attacked by a Rottweiler, and I'm glad he's doing better. But he might get a kick out of that cover. Sorry to you dog lovers out there. I was just making a little joke. I'm not serious. Another album I got there was this one, Indian Rope Trick. Okay, and it's another unofficial album. And what's interesting about this is I always saw this cover in Beatle books, and I always liked the title of this album, and I always liked the picture on this album. But like most bootlegs, as I said, you know, the material on here is outdated. It's all muffled, like there's nothing here you really need anymore. But it's interesting, these early bootlegs from like the 1970s, like 1975, they used to just like have a white cardboard, and they used to glue on a photocopied piece of paper, and that was your album cover. Okay, and no frills, but that's what we had then, so we were happy with it. And this is purely for nostalgia. From this woman's collection, there were about 12 to 15 other albums of this type that, you know, inferior old bootlegs like this. And I had to watch how I spent my money because I'm limited. So I just bought this one for now. And because I had a special, you know, feeling, drawing to it. There is a couple of Uruguay imports. This one is Los Beatles, and the original title, I like it because the cover is different. And Para Ti, I think that means from me to you. Maybe somebody could tell me. I had this album back in the day in my original collection. And it's on an Odeon label. Here's a Magical Mystery Tour Uruguay import. You know, the back is, you know, written in another language. And the song is on the top. And I'm running out of time, so I'll show you the label here. EMI, you know. Sorry I wasn't able to show that many albums, but I wanted to make sure I got the story out. And I hope you'll consider looking at part 2, which I'm going to make right away, to continue the